Greetings, members of Fair Employment Foundation. We're a team of consultants from the University of Mauritius. My name is Sanjana. My teammates are Sarvesh, Vidushi, and Mandira. We are here today to provide the organization with a strategy to succeed in its mission of setting a benchmark when ethics clashes with profitability. Before we get into that, let us situate ourselves within your enterprise. The organization was established to tackle labor exploitation and debt bondage that plagues migrant workers across Asia. With your nonprofit agency, you managed to expand your social mission through the establishment of a foundation to raise awareness, a pledge involving reputable firms, training in the Philippines, and an app to act as an information resource for both domestic workers and the employers in Hong Kong. Across Asia, employment agencies and training centers have ignored important principles, and instead, as you can see on the left-hand side of the illustration, they adopted unethical practices that push workers into forced labor by charging huge fees while less to prepare them for their job. The first principle of the Dhaka Principles for Migration with Dignity declares that the employer should bear the full costs of recruitment and placement, while the migrant worker is not charged any fees for recruitment or placement. The ILO Convention number 29, commonly known as the Forced Labor Convention, ratified by the British government in 1931 and extended to the Hong Kong territory in 1957, is therefore legally binding in Hong Kong. Even with these international standards, in 2012, before the advent of your agency, the Asia-Pacific region accounted for the largest number of forced labor. 56% of the global total, or 11.7 million people. This unethical business model results in a broken market that is failing both the migrant worker and the employer. With your startup, you provided an ethical business model, which is on the right-hand side, to solve the problem of forced labor and establish a priority to change the market. No need for migrant workers to find big money with the money lenders, to be then exploited by the greedy recruitment agencies or to be mismatched with the wrong employer. Despite creating such an ethical model, agencies continue to exploit these poor souls that are just trying to make a decent living.
How to stop this abuse? We have understood the concern of your co-founder, Scott Stiles. Workers around the world are being subjected to debt bondage and modern slavery, especially in Hong Kong. Some were abused by their employers, but most exploitation came from recruitment agencies. Mr. Stiles wants to remedy to this. He wants to uncuff the prisoners working with such conditions. The answer to this is ethics within foreign recruitment agencies. But how to make the foreign recruitment agency industry ethical? As a consultancy team, we came up with a combination of strategies to help you address this issue. Without further ado, let's get right into them. Vidushi?
To solve the problem of how to make foreign recruitment industry be an ethical one, we are targeting the market forces. Our strategy focuses on increasing demand and supply of ethical agents. Firstly, we will be talking about increasing the reach, that is, the supply of ethical agencies through partnerships and franchising. This segment will be reinforced by the second part of our strategy, increasing the demand of ethical agencies by both employees and employers. We do, however, recognize that in the process of implementing our strategy, there are several risks present, and so we devised a few risk mitigation strategies to combat those. Now, let's get into the first part of our strategy, supply. To achieve this first segment of our strategy, which is increasing supply of ethical agents, we will be talking about partnerships with emerging local agencies and franchising. First, let's take a look at partnership. Here, we are talking about joining forces with other emerging local agencies for a mutual gain. We have seen that FEA has a technological edge. The company used technology to be as efficient as possible and is the epitome of a profitable ethical agency. We will be offering the same model to the other local agencies, that is, granting them access to the technology used by FEA in the view to empower them. With access of technology, they will be able to digitalize and have a better matching process between employers and workers. They will be able to be efficient as well as reduce their cost. You may be wondering, how will FEA benefit from this partnership? Well, in return of access to the technologies, the agencies partnering with FEA will have to sign the Fair Hiring Pledge and will have strict contractual obligations to abide to the rules and regulations set by FEA. They will get into a public agreement to hire workers ethically and consent to quality control officers from FEA for monitoring and ensuring compliance of the regulatory framework. Also, an ethical badge will be provided to those qualifying as an ethical agency. FEA can also approach websites like helperplace.com to encourage more agencies to join the Fair Hiring Pledge. Helperplace.com brings together several domestic helper agencies who are well reputed for providing fair employment. Also, it can partner with agencies sharing the same social mission, like the Fair Choice Domestic Helper Agency. Secondly, we will be increasing the supply of ethical agencies through franchising. Hereby, Fair Employment Agency will be the franchisor and selling the license for its operations. The franchisees will have to operate under FEA's regulatory framework and will benefit from its assistance. We are also advocating for the franchisees to move in different industries to further tackle the issues of unethical practices, mainly the construction company industry, which stands at around 200 billion HK dollars in Hong Kong alone. So, through franchising, FEA can start addressing the exploitation and unethical practices in the construction industry as well. As a first step, we are estimating around 5 franchisees by 2022. Thus, with partnerships and franchising, the supply for ethical agencies will increase in the industry. A big question now ponders: why will local agencies want to join forces with FEA? Well, we have seen how FEA became a profitable ethical agency. With the same model offered to those partnering with FEA, they will be more efficient. For instance, they will be able to move towards going paperless and reduce their overall cost. The agency will be efficient as well as ethical. They will also be more profitable. It was found that 70% of Hong Kong employers were willing to pay higher than market average just to ensure that their employees started employment free from debt bondage. So overall, these agencies will be profitable and be certified as ethical. This brings us to an interesting part: the ethical badge. This ethical badge will be provided to those who are either a strategic partner, a franchise, or to those who sign the Fair Hiring Pledge. In order to obtain this badge, the agencies will have to be approved by the quality control team of FEA. This badge will demarcate recruitment agencies from unethical ones. It will act as a certification of being free from any abusive and unethical practices. As such, this will contribute to a new standard of professionalism for foreign employment agencies.
Our first target is to ensure that the local industry in Hong Kong becomes more ethical. In the long term, we will use the same principles of partnerships and franchising to explore further markets like Thailand and Myanmar in order to expand our reach if the need arises. Now, let's take a look at the demand side of our strategy. In order to make more recruitment agencies go ethical, we need to increase the demand for them, and simultaneously, the invisible hands of the market will adjust the supply for them as well. However, our strategy to increase demand is twofold, as there are two ends that are equally subject to it: employees and employers. I will elaborate on the employee side, whilst my colleague Sarvesh will talk about the employer side later. The first way to increase demand for recruitment agencies by employees is by spreading awareness through marketing. Use social media. The impact of social media and social apps have increased in countries like Philippines and Indonesia. With so many employees present there, you need to be too. They need to see you as the solution to solve their work exploitation struggles. They need to know exactly what you are offering and how you are doing it. They need to be attracted to you. We propose that you use social media to connect more personally with clients and candidates, whilst at the same time showing them your social mission. Influencers like Agot Isidro with 257K followers, Angel Luxin with 8.6 million followers in Philippines, and other human rights and Advocates can also be sponsored in exchange for posts and stories coverage on the social media impact and quality of services of your recruitment company. This will result in growing popularity, and by word of mouth, employees will connect other clients automatically. You'll be able to get a higher reach while at the same time being cost effective. We have to know that while advertising, your content must be at 100% informative, whereby how you are offering, how you're helping in saving people from debt bondage and modern slavery, and how instead you're encouraging more ethical recruitment practices is shown. Furthermore, we'll also help people identify ethical recruitment agencies through ethical badges, whereby we'll advertise agencies certified with them. This might become a trend in the long term, similar to the concept of people consuming green products. Employees will register at recruitment agencies with certified ethical badges. Moreover, your Fair Hong Kong app could be constantly updated, whereby job postings, awareness videos, as well as testimonials of clients of their experience with the fair employment agencies will be advertised with a consent, of course. This will increase your level of credibility as well as the trust in your social service and increase demand as well. Speaking of increasing demand, let's talk about how we will do this on the employer's side. Sarvesh.
Our strategy is to harness the market forces of demand and supply in the industry for ethical agencies. It is therefore crucial for us to strike the correct balance, and in order to do so, increasing the demand for ethical agencies by employers is another challenge. Employers are another key party in this market. We have noted that you have signed the Fair Hiring Pledge with more than 20 multinational companies. While this in itself is an achievement, there is still a lot of potential in this area to make more companies sign your pledge. Our strategy is to target companies who already have a strong ethical background to catch momentum and cause a crowd effect in the Hong Kong market. As numerous big and influential companies will sign the pledge, more of their partners and even competitors would want to react in the same way. We have shortlisted some companies present in Hong Kong that have demonstrated strong interest in maintaining an excellent ethical standard and are even regarded as the world's most ethical companies. The Corner Group is a leading worldwide merchandise sourcing company with a 70-year history of performance. Corner has strict policies for any violation or abuse of human rights, child labor laws, and factory safety standards. Similarly, Tata Steel has a strong ethical framework known as Tata Code of Conduct, and the company even observed the month of July as an ethics month with annual ethical themes. Also, Wipro is recognized by Ethisphere as one of the most ethical companies for the 10th year in succession. On the other hand, Sony's diversity as well as commitment to create social value makes it a potential for your firm to sign the pledge. As these companies sign your pledge, their main competitors as well as partners would want to react in the same way. This shall give the pledge a momentum and increase the demand for ethical agencies. The net effect of our strategy would be to increase demand as well as supply of the ethical agents, thereby creating a dynamic and fair employment agency industry. Now, let us take a look at the financial viability of such a model. Even as a non-profit organization, your company needs financial resources to progress further towards achieving its goal. We have done a graphical analysis to enhance your comprehension on our upcoming financial forecast. We have noted that 90% of employers would recommend your company to a friend, and 95% of workers report job satisfaction. Your company's goodwill and recommendations will have a multiplier effect. As you can see from the left-hand side, we can see the effects of an unsustainable and unethical business model, whereby negative word of mouth shall prevail. Hypothetically, the unethical agency charges a total of $30,000, which currently triples the price that your company charges. In the short term, the latter earns almost thrice your revenue. But in the long term, as we can observe from the right-hand side, your happy clients will recommend your service and shall bring more people from their country through your agency. Instead of a short-term gain, the net long-term financial gain would be much more. In the same light, let us now explore the revenue estimations for your company. From your website, we have understood that from 2014 to 2019, you have deployed more than 5,000 people out of the 400,000 people currently working in Hong Kong. Therefore, you are currently responsible for about 1.25% of the market. We are estimating that you shall deploy another 5,000 people by 2022, 10,000 by 2023, and 15,000 by 2025. As such, revenue generated from the agency line, assuming a constant price of $9,900, will be about 49.5 million in 2022, 100 million and 148 million in 2023 and 2025 respectively. As a new income stream, we propose that you sell your franchise license for $200 and $200,000. And because of this competitive price and the rising demand for ethical agencies, we are estimating that 5 licenses would be sold by 2022, about 10 by 2023, and about 18 by 2025, bringing revenues of $1 million in 2022, $2 million and $3.6 million in 2023 and 2025 respectively. The other revenue segment encompasses the revenue generated from other business lines like Honest Job, FTC, sponsorships, donations, and fundraising campaigns. The money earned shall be used to refinance our strategic cycle, reinvestment in technology, marketing, and consequently, our rising power and size will attract more partnerships and more franchises, allowing us to take massive steps closer to our ultimate goal. However, there are certain risks to bear in mind.
The adoption of an ethical business model is like leading the business on a tightrope with several risks blowing up the organization, similar to a strong wind. The first risk we've identified is the alignment of your staff's interests with your social mission. As you expand geographically and target new markets, you will have to have a stringent recruitment process to filter those applicants who match your ideology of eliminating forced labor and who genuinely want to create a change by your social mission. Applicants with a history of voluntary works and knowledge of human rights should be the most welcomed. You should also conduct regular team building exercises to align the interests of your teams with each other. And you should exercise an appraisal as it can help to communicate your vision to your valuable employees. The second risk concerns the non-compliance of partners. As discussed in the strategy, you will be leveraging your technology of recruitment for recruitment firms to benefit from lower costs and prevent them from adopting old practices to maximize profits while using your technology. You must ensure that a quality controller of your choice is present in the organization. You must ensure the proper training of the quality controller, and you must also make regular reporting to the headquarters mandatory. The first risk concerns the dilution of interest that can happen when enterprise starts to make a profit from the ethical model. What you should do is to stick to the no premium policy that you currently adopt to prevent such a dilution within any of your branches. Your nonprofit needs strong relationship with donors, volunteers, media, and even the government organization, such as the Hong Kong Labor Department. How do you do that? Well, by creating an informative marketing strategy that will spread your message and your mission statement. Your strategy can include marketing materials such as brochures, postcards, thank you notes to donors, appearances, or setting up of an information table at various events, while you can also opt for a strong social media presence.
This abuse and exploitation has to stop. Workers around the world being subjected to debt bondage and modern slavery has to stop. Our combined strategy, which directly targets the concerned market, shall result in an increase in the supply of ethical recruitment agencies, as well as demand for them on the ends of both employees and employers, while maintaining the essence of your non-profit social impact goal. The net effect of this will be the social impact maximization and and long-shot expansion as represented by the respective axes on the slide, with Mr. Styles finally climbing towards waving the achievement flag. Thank you very much for your attention. This marks the end of our presentation. We will now open to all questions.
Thank you very much for the great presentation. Now it's a Q&A. We have 15 minutes. Let's get a timer ready. 15 minutes. Let's have the first question from our judges.
Hi, maybe I can start. It's Raymond from the HSBC team. Can you explain to me the difference between being a partner versus being a franchisee? The difference I see, I have to pay to be a franchisee, but I get the same benefit if I don't have to pay being a partner. So can you just explain to me again the difference between the two?
Thank you so much for your question, sir. Well, when we are going for a partnership, the partners will get to operate with their own brand name, their own separate identity. They will just have the access to the technology that FEA has, and they will be binded with a contractual agreement based on the technologies and everything for the fair hiring process. But for the franchising, the licenses of the agency will be sold like the business model as a whole. The franchisees will use the name of a fair hiring agency and will have the assistance of how to operate and go forward of the main head office. Thank you.
Just a quick follow-up question on that in terms of franchising, and the agent's been operating in the same business for a long time. So running a separate franchising operation is very, very different to kind of what we've done in the past. So how do we mitigate against that risk? Because monitoring franchisees and making sure they're doing the right thing, it's very different to what we do right now. So.
Thank you very much for your question, sir. I believe that my colleague Vidushi would like to give more insights on this, and my colleague Sanjana will later elaborate on the risk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandira. Well, for the franchising part, there will be contractual agreements. They have to follow legal frameworks. And in terms of the risk associated with that, I feel my colleague Sanjana will be in a better position to address that.
Thanks, Vidushi. Thanks, Mandira. If things start to go wrong, it is important that the franchisor takes action to ensure that the franchisee stays on track. Well, regular communication and discussing issues before they escalate out of control is very essential, I believe. However, in certain situations, the only option that can be left is termination. But it is a step that shouldn't be taken lightly. Therefore, the franchise agreement, as Vidushi mentioned, should therefore need to contain a specific provision to enable the franchisor to terminate the franchise agreement when it is necessary to protect the brand to avoid the franchisor any significant damage. In a master franchise scenario, let's say, local advice should be taken when talking about sub-franchising agreements to better anticipate a termination of the franchise agreement with the master franchisee, and the options with what the franchisee must put into place. But the second part of this would be that the franchisor should inform the public via any appropriate media platforms, because if we are preaching an ethical message, holding public statements and press updates are no longer core currency of real-time crisis and issues management. It should be real. It should be at any particular issue that can happen. People can expect immediacy, visibility, and humanity in seeing our response. So we have to ensure that the correct termination or the correct communication is adapted in that situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe I'll hand it over to the other judges to see, as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I just thank you very much for your presentation. I just want to ask a question on paperless. You talked about paperless a few times, right? What is your plan for the execution of paperless, and how does it get integrated into your overall strategy?
Thank you so much for your question, ma'am. While going paperless, it will be through digitalization. We have seen through the case study that many emerging local recruitment agencies are still working with the traditional ways. They don't have a digitalization integrated in their way of operating. So when we are giving access to the FEA's technology, we are promoting the use of computers, digitalizing as a whole, and so they can move towards limiting the use of papers and work more through digitalization. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for the presentation. Just a quick question in line with what Raymond asked. The partnership angle that you've kind of explored, it focuses on how you will ensure that you choose the right partners, etc. Did you folks discuss about whether potentially you can monetize that and get that back into the P&L? I mean, you are sharing technology, you're giving access to your app platform, and people can use that to scale up. Obviously, there may be a revenue upside for those partners. What about taking a share of that? Was that discussed at all? Why didn't you choose that, or why didn't you go down that path?
Thank you for this very beautiful question, sir. Well, to answer this question, we would like to reinforce the objective that Scott, your co-founder, is trying to promote. That is the social objective of the business. We see competitors not as competitors, but as part of the solution. Therefore, in order to make our reach more, in order to make our approach, our strategy more approachable and more accepted by the other prevailing agencies, we are trying to facilitate the process as much as we can, and not trying to impose any barriers like financial constraint that will occur when trying to monetize this technology edge that we have. Definitely, we do have a technology edge, and we have to capitalize on it, but we are capitalizing on it again to promote the social objective. We do acknowledge that money is essential for your company, but for your company to achieve its objective, but we can see that on a balance, it is better to bring more and more local agencies out of the 1,400 agencies that are currently present in Hong Kong. If we can at least bring 20% to our business model, it would be already a great achievement for us. Therefore, in order to answer to your question briefly, to sum up, we have not monetized specifically for the social objective to increase access to our technology and our partnership and franchise.
Just a follow-up on that, Sarvesh. So when we engaged you as consultants, what do you think was the exam question that you were asked to solve?
Well, the exam question was how to make this industry a more ethical one, how to make your founder achieve this objective that he's advocating for, that is to make the industry a more ethical one and end this modern slavery that is prevailing in the Hong Kong industry, in the Hong Kong recruitment industry. Was
that the only exam question?
There were other questions. That is why we have tried to use this idea of marketing and increasing our influence in a way that we shall bring more revenue as well as for the company to reinvest in itself. And we are, despite being a non-profit organization and promoting the social aspect of the business, we are trying to bring many partners together and to get the funds required in terms of partnerships as well, partnership and sponsorships.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just have one follow-up question. One of the so what are we going to do in terms of like our existing sort of like activities in the Philippines? Are we continue going to invest in that while we're running this other strategy, or we're kind of what's our plan there? Did you guys think about that as well?
Thank you. This beautiful question again. I would like to direct this question to my colleague Sanjana and Mandira to give more insights.
Thanks, Sarvesh. I think the plan was about to expand in the Philippines as well. The operating center, the training center is already available in the Philippines. And the plan would be actually to partner with local agencies in the Philippines as well. Mandira, can you elaborate on that?
Yes, Sanjana. In fact, we have to know that our long-term strategy is highly dependent upon our performance in Hong Kong. We need to be sure that we have the required funds, but we have the required confidence about the functionality of our model to expand further in countries like Philippines and countries like Thailand, countries like Myanmar, where human trafficking, where the rate of people suffering from bondage, from exploitation is really rampant, is really high. That is, to sum up, on a short-term basis, we'll be focusing on Hong Kong, where we will make sure that our work is effective, our business, our model has been functional enough there, and we will take this as an example, as a model, as a functionality model to expand further in countries like Philippines.
And to add some more insight in this question, considering the satisfaction rate that we get from the employees and the employees, we can already understand that the portals, that is the training centers and the honest job segment in the Philippines, they are performing well. And to expand their reach as well, we're trying to get into social influence. We're trying to bring social influences in the Philippines to influence the market and to raise awareness about the problems in the recruitment agency, so as to sensitize them and for them to encourage them to go through our portals, that is the Trainings FTC Center and the Honest Job Center in the Philippines currently. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Thank you.
I think we can take one more question.
I don't have any more questions for now. I don't know about the other judges. So.
I'm good.
Okay. If that's the case, we should move on to the next deliberation. So thank you very much for the questions, and thank you very much to the team for taking the questions. The judges will stay in the room to deliberate, and the team, we will place you in the waiting room, and we will welcome you back for the feedback session in 8 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done.